And welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Bums podcast. It's your host, Rob, a.k.a. B-Ball Archives. And once again, I got the bums in the house. AJ James, thanks for joining us. And once again, all of this is brought to you by Love You Hard TV. We want to thank the good people over there. But we are currently beating in the building. I got to get that.
Yep.
in the universe right away. Baseline Bums, we are beating in the building. Let's talk about it.
It's not even close.
It was a rough first night, but after that, we went ahead and never looked back.
I don't think it's even close.
No, I mean, we are tied for fourth. They are tied for ninth, but I still feel like it's a situation where, we are projected to get way more points than they are. So I don't really see them catching us unless something really, really outrageous happens.
I think we have 12 Sweet 16 teams, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we're
not,
here.
Not bad. And also, I mean, I do need to talk about Mike Taylor's bracket that he filled out, though, because that thing is on page 3. It's not even on page 1, dog. Mike, dude. Yikes.
I think I saw it was like 60 out of the 61 brackets in the group. It's rated 60 out of 61.
Good thing he had Rudy on, because otherwise, he'd have no good brackets.
That's true.
I got to be honest. I can't make too much fun of Mike because I had Lipscomb in the Sweet 16.
Well,
so
James.
I'm just glad I didn't put mine on the internet.
Yeah.
Well, I did, and
that's true.
Baseline Bums is in fourth, but you know who's in first? It is this guy.
Ito?
I know ball.
It's you.
Kinda. Sorta. Not really. I just follow it because Tech's good at basketball now, and it's really easy. James and I were talking about this the other day. College basketball is a great sport because you don't need to know a whole lot to do pretty well. So,
No, and you really don't even need to watch.
Well, and I think that this is one of those years more so than a lot of years, because this has been a very chalk year. This has been a very like the higher seed is probably going to win the game, and this has been one of those years more so than ever. So I think that it's very much like hey, you want to do well in the brackets, like this is probably going to be a safe year when we're looking at the 10th seed Arkansas, a John Calipari coach team, as the potential Cinderella. Like that's crazy.
Well, and a lot of these games haven't really even been all that competitive.
There's been a few standouts for sure, but for the most part, some of these higher seeds have been kicking ass, and it's not even close.
Well, like even one of the upsets, the 12 of the 5, I know Clemson came back and made it respectable late, but McNeese was kicking their ass for 3/4 of that game.
And I mean, Duke looks unbeatable right now. Duke looks absolutely unbeatable. They look. I thought for maybe like 30 minutes before the game, I was like, maybe Baylor could potentially pull this one out or maybe make it close and interesting. And that first half, you're like, okay, here we go. We got something. And then they just pulled away and never looked back. That's a scary team. That's a really scary team.
Oh yeah.
Talk about peaking at the right time and getting your best player back.
Yeah. That was doing a deep dive on their crazy shooting. There was I think it was 81 true shooting percentage. That was the highest true shooting percentage any team has had in the tournament in the last 7 years. So when we think about coming together and playing a great game of basketball, Duke is mind-boggling right now how efficient they are.
And also, like, I think we need to give credit as, like, not necessarily a show, but as a basketball world to John Shire. Like, they always say following the legend is the job that nobody wants, but, I mean, damn. He's especially, like, when you look right down the road at Hubert Davis following Roy Williams and compare the two situations, it's night and day.
Yeah, that's very true.
It helps when you can get a guy like Cooper Flagg on your squad. So,
Yeah, but honestly, in their defense, they have a lot of other guys stepping up, hitting a lot of big shots. So it's not just him, but at the end of the day, obviously, he gives everyone else more freedom to play aggressive and to do what they're best at.
That center is going to be a good NBA center, I think. He's what, like 7'2", 240 or something. I can't.
He's
Yeah, I can't think
projected
of
first
his name,
round.
but he looks like a guy that can grab rebounds and block shots and just be a lane filler for sure.
Yeah, I mean, a la maybe Mark Williams,
Similar,
that
yeah,
kind of
for
player.
sure.
Little less springy,
Still,
but
still,
Yeah.
still
same kind
athletic
of,
and
same
quick
kind of
enough
player.
to block shots. So he made that Baylor team work for their every bucket they got down low. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that there's going to be a lot of stuff that Arizona's going to have to do to compete with that Duke team. But
Yeah, I don't think Arizona
Yeah,
has
and
that.
that's where my
No,
bracket
they-
that's where my
they don't.
bracket goes to shit because in one of my brackets that I'm doing well in, I have Zona beating Duke, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, at least you're
That's
not my
tough.
wife, because shout out my wife. I love her so much. But she picked Wisconsin to win the national championship, and we were watching that game on Saturday, and she said that, and I was like, why did you pick Wisconsin? And she was just like, vibes. And I mean, I can't even act like it's a
Badgers.
crazy pick. They're a 3 seed, so it's not like it's like unheard of. Tech's a 3 seed. We all have them in
Yeah.
the Final Four. But talk about
Now,
your bracket
now
being blown up.
I
Right,
do think
that's-
we need to talk a little bit about the SEC. I still think they're fairly overrated. I know they have a bunch of teams in the Sweet 16, but also you had a bunch of teams in the tournament as a whole. So you're going to have a handful of teams make it pretty far. I look at the SEC and I'm still just not sold on their conference.
I still think, though, that you can say that this weekend was a success for them. I mean,
Right.
I mean, I know that the volume is higher, but
the rate of
still
success
like-
was there.
yeah, like Kentucky going in and beating Illinois, like that was a game that a lot of people were picking Illinois, and Kentucky went out and showed that, they're still there, even with a first-year head coach.
Yeah, so I think that the SEC they did get kind of a softball by having so many teams in the playing field, but I do think that having a lot of them survive that first couple of rounds, that's really big. I think that we need good representation from the SEC if college basketball is to be healthy.
Now, that being said, 14 is excessive. There did not need to be 14 teams in the SEC in the tournament, because also if you just look at it from a raw percentage perspective, the Big 12 has a higher percentage of their teams that got into the tournament in the Sweet 16, 4 out of 7, 58%. So I mean, at just that one metric, it's hard to look at like a team like West Virginia and say
Yeah, they
didn't
definitely
belong.
belonged. Way more than UNC.
They did. Way
Way more than Texas.
Oh, speaking
Yes.
of, they just got a new coach, and I think it's a stupid hire.
Yeah.
You want to talk about it?
It's a really stupid hire. I mean,
Well,
anytime you hire a Miller, I'm just over it.
Well, I think that we can dive into it, but I'm just really dying to talk about the Maryland Colorado State game.
Okay.
I really can't wait to dive into that. That was
Let's do it.
the most exciting moment in the tournament
sure.
thus far. It was literally Colorado State hitting a big time dagger three. Everyone in the entire country thinking that they were about to pull one of the biggest upsets. We were still going to have a mid-major Cinderella team in there, and then we had Derek Queen just hit one of the most clutch buckets we've seen in March Madness history. And a lot of people are saying, was it a travel? Was it not a travel? Guys, what are you feeling about it?
To the people that were calling it a travel, I just really want them to shut up. I mean, no ref ever is going to call that a travel in that situation. A, it was not egregious. B, it's at the buzzer. Like, what are we doing here?
Right.
You talk about wanting drama, and then you get drama, and all you do is bitch about it.
Yeah. Are you going to really we've seen it on TikTok a handful of times on the high school level of a ref calling a foul or calling a travel in the last 3 seconds of the game, but they're not going to do that in college, and they're not even looking at his feet. There's so much more to be looking at during that time. And dude, great shot.
I mean, if it was
Yeah.
egregious, like that's one
No,
thing.
it was
but
fine.
We're talking about a half a step, maybe?
Right. And he was gathering. He was gathering. The whole time the ball was in one hand. And if the ball is still in one hand, even if it's pinned against your body, you are still technically gathering
Right.
the ball.
Well,
So that
and if I
step
see-
that step is just one step. That's one gather.
But if I see one more nerd on Twitter say, "Well, in college basketball, they don't allow the gather step," I want to shove
Yeah,
someone
I'll
in
show
a
you
locker.
an example
It-
on Thursday when they start playing.
Well, technically they allow something similar to the gather step. It isn't what the NBA gather step is. You're still allowed to catch the ball and then take two steps.
And we get into that dunk that I had a couple months back about why college basketball is not my favorite. It's just I don't see how it prepares players well
It's a
for the
completely
NBA.
different game, man.
And yeah. And
Right.
but going back to that Maryland game, I have to feel for Colorado State fans. Not only do you have to go through that, but then today you
Yeah.
lose your coach.
Right. That's a double whammy right there because you were potentially one of you were going to be the Cinderella story because there was really no one else. There's no mid majors left that everyone else can kind of just rally behind, and that's really shitty to see it go down like that. But at the end of the day, what a hell of a shot, and the fact that he was in the
me the
huddle
ball.
saying, "Give
Yeah.
me the motherfucking ball."
Oh,
That
yeah.
is so boss. I need that on a T-shirt
Oh,
yesterday.
NIL deal from Dairy Queen. And
Underdog, put it on a
Dairy Queen's
t-shirt.
gonna call in like 2 minutes and be like, "I want my MF and ice cream," and that's what's gonna be. But dude, one of the craziest things though is they were talking on the broadcast and they showed the examples of Maryland like continually lose last second games, and then Colorado comes and hits that shot, and you're like, "Oh, these poor fans." And then they just turn around and make that shot. And you're like, oh, thank God. Because I don't think they could go through that kind of
Right.
depression in the offseason.
I had to laugh when I heard Derek Queen's post-game interview because the Baltimore
Oh,
accent
yeah.
just Jesus Christ.
I'm from
So
Balmo.
thick.
We know.
It's like something crab cakes. But what's so
Crab cakes and football, baby. That's what
definitely
Maryland
is.
does.
But shout out to Colorado State, and I mean, there's no Cinderellas, and that's been kind of a topic of conversation today. But in NIL, they're going to be very few and far between, and that's just the reality we got to live with.
I think it is and it isn't because the NIL and the transfer portal thing cuts both ways because you see a lot of high class talent that maybe isn't as patient as they should be, and they wind up at some of these mid major schools, and that's how you get a Colorado State on the doorstep, or what we used to have with Wichita State and teams of that ilk.
Right. Yeah. You still see a guy like Neek Clifford who is easily talented enough to be maybe like a third team All-American kind of guy. Like you could see him playing anywhere in the country, but yet he's still at a squad like the Rams.
Well, and it's really interesting. That's a really fun point you bring up, AJ, because it's just like we won't know for a while because last year was not like this in terms of just chalkiness.
Yeah, but also like
Right.
the talking heads of ESPN, it's like, guys, you don't watch college basketball. We all know you don't watch college basketball. The only time you do is during the month of March and the first weekend of April. So like you're talking out of your ass because you don't know what you're talking about. Like Stephen A. Smith complaining about there's no Cinderellas. I'm like, dude, stick to NBA, stick to NFL. You did not turn on a single game this year. Don't start with me. And same thing, dude. I don't know how Seth Greenberg got his job, to be honest with you, because that dude just talks out of both sides of his mouth.
Failing to recruit Steph Curry. That's
Yeah,
how.
that's basically what it is. So the talking heads today, they can kick rocks. I think the teams that are in the Sweet 16 definitely deserve to be in the Sweet 16. Shout out to the Big Ten for having so many teams as well. They put on a really good performance, but the Big 12 is not too bad either.
Well, it's just a power conference domination. This is the fewest amount of conferences that have ever been represented in the Sweet 16.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that also is chalked up to the consolidation of
Yeah.
the conferences.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's we're seeing teams shift conferences in a way that would have been absolutely mind-boggling 5-10 years ago if you were to suggest that some of these teams would be in the conferences they are today. So I think that alone is going to create a lot of I guess uniformity in who you see in late rounds.
Forget 5-10 years ago. I mean, it's still mind-numbing. Like
But like even more so, like, I mean, I just think it would, you wouldn't be able to convince some people like where people are nowadays. I don't know. It's yeah.
Also, shout out to the ghost of Bill Walton for that game
Yeah.
last night, because I know he would have enjoyed having that Pac-12
For
zombie
sure.
matchup.
For sure. Well, kind of going back to like the super conferences, Maryland and Oregon are in the same conference. Like, just think about that for a second. I think Oregon,
West
yeah,
Virginia
West
and
Virginia,
BYU.
Or I mean, just there's so many examples. But for me, I was talking to one of my buddies about this, and Oregon, I feel, really benefited from having home games from against East Coast teams, because that's like a 5.5, 4.5 hour flight, if not more. And then when do you get there? The day before, more than likely. So you're probably a little jet lagged, because that's a cross country flight, and then you have to fly all the way back. On top of that, if you play at 7 o'clock on West Coast, that's like 10 o'clock East Coast on your time. So like you're playing until 1 o'clock in the morning kind of thing. So I think when you have a quick turnaround, Oregon and those teams that can stay home are just going to have just the huge upper hand.
Also, it merits a mention while we're talking about college basketball, because I know this is not a college basketball podcast, although you might be under other impressions.
For now.
Rutgers, the Big Ten, they have 2 top 5 draft picks in Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, and they did not sniff the tournament, which is just wild to me.
I don't know. I mean, to me, that's always been the case. Like your draft status doesn't really hinge on your team success, because you could be not running a pro style offense, and then you're obviously not going to be able to match up well against certain squads, and maybe that's why your team's not succeeding. Yet you're putting up really, really good numbers.
And I'm not doubting those 2 guys' talent. I'm just saying it's crazy that Rutgers was as bad as they were.
Right.
I mean, dude, Wemby didn't even go to college, and he was a first pick.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
We've been
yeah, I
talking
think,
way too much about other schools.
Right. I was
Get
literally
self-indulgent.
I was literally about to go exactly to that place. So thank you for that. Thank you for that segue. Yeah, Texas Tech versus Arkansas. We're battling against Coach Calipari. How are you digging our chances, gentlemen?
I'm feeling pretty confident.
I am too. I think it's going to be a race to 65. I think the first team that hits 65 is probably going to win the game. The Arkansas is a good team. They're physical, but they also have significant scoring droughts at times. And if Tech can just the crazy thing about Tech is, yes, we played lower seeds, but also we deserve to play lower seeds because we played well in the regular season. Yeah. We went.
Drake's got like 4 Power 5 wins.
Well,
so
my thing is, our team is so versatile. We went from shooting the most threes ever in a tournament to dominating the paint down low, and that was just straight coaching. And I think Grant McCaslin has his guys just absolutely focused, locked in, ready to go. And I mean, if we can get a Chance McMillan sighting in San Francisco, that would be awesome. But I'm not really holding my breath for that. Either way, I think we take it to Arkansas, and you can see us in the Elite Eight.
I think this game these 2 teams have a lot in common with each other, even right down to the injuries that they've experienced this year. And you look at Arkansas they got their best player back from a 2-month absence last week. So I don't think we've really seen the best of this team yet. And that is probably what scares me the most, just as a Tech fan.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think that Arkansas being a 10 seed is very indicative of them having 10 seed talent. I don't think that if you look at that squad and the fact that they can hit shots and they have multiple lob threats and guys that can clog the paint. They have a good core where they can go win some good tournament games. So it's not really, I'm not viewing it as, hey, we're this big 3 seed going to walk in and bully this 10 seed. Absolutely not. I think that this is going to be a good team. They spent a lot of money putting this team together when Coach Cal first got there, and I think that the results are kind of speaking for themselves.
Yeah, and that's one thing Arkansas has.
Yeah, they do. A lot of pigskins, but
like Boogie Fland is a top 20 pick probably in this year's draft. So I mean, we're in a good position because we have a lot of bodies to throw at him, and I don't think Arkansas can say the same.
Yeah,
about
the only thing that concerns me is if they are as aggressive as they were against St. John's, that's when things could possibly get sticky with foul trouble. And I don't know how deep we are in order to sustain someone going down with some foul trouble. But at the same time, the way that JT was defending the paint on Saturday, meeting people at the apex when he was going vertical, dude, textbook defending. It was great.
Arkansas fouls
they
a lot.
Do foul
too.
a lot. We could shoot 30 free throws easily.
Yeah. And I said it last week when we were breaking down the bracket as a whole. I would have rather played St. John's here, no matter who was on the other side. I just think that team was fraudulent.
Yeah, I mean I think that's a little harsh, but after seeing what they did offensively against Arkansas, it was clear that they just coasted on their defense for as long as they could, and that's only going to get you so far. I know that everyone says defense wins championships, but holy shit, you need to shoot the fucking ball well. Like, if you can't shoot the ball, then you're fucked.
I saw someone on Twitter say that St. John's would be the best team they've ever seen if there was no ball.
One of the craziest things about the Sweet 16 is in the Final Four, especially with Tech. It's in San Francisco. Did y'all know that Texas Tech is the closest school to San Francisco, and it's not even close? I mean, it's insane. It's us, Arkansas, and then Maryland, and was it Florida? Florida, dude, and they're all going to San Francisco. Like, what are we doing here? Like, why are they a host city? Why are they so far out? And we have these 4 teams. But hey, I guess get your miles, guys.
I mean, at least those are big fan bases. You know they'll travel.
Yeah, we'll definitely travel.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
they'll travel, and they're 40,000 plus people at their schools. There's plenty of Tech alumni in San Francisco.
Yeah,
we just don't.
We're everywhere. Ooh, we're like sleeper cells. But just shout out to Grant McCaslin, man. This dude, I was completely wrong about him. I thought this was a bad hire. I was like, shades of Matt Wells was coming to mind when we hired him, which is a terrible take now. And I feel so stupid. But, man, fastest coach to get to 50 wins in Tech program history. This is our 4th Sweet 16 in 7 years with 3 different coaches. Guys, Texas Tech's a basketball school. There's no doubt about that.
Sure, it's not a baseball school.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and they were just speaking about McCaslin's like his toughness, and how he just has no fear for any opponent, and they were saying like, if he's in a fight with a bear, you should worry about the bear, and I love that. I'm hearing other people speak about our coach like that, and that's how he's viewed in basketball circles. So I think he's a good fit for us moving forward.
I'm just glad that we're finally throwing our money around, our weight around, however you want to phrase it, because like there's no excuse for having a 9-year tournament absence like we did.
Right. Yeah.
And so it like when I was there, when y'all were there, the basketball team was a
basketball
joke.
Team. You got free tickets during siblings weekend. That's how it went.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you would go to watch the other good people in the Big 12. Like you would go to watch like Blake Griffin come to town and then dominate the shit out of you. Or you would go whenever like, Kevin Durant was coming and then fucking you up. Like that's when you would go watch a game.
I had an internship with the athletic department my last like 2 years there, or part of my last 2 years there. You had to beg people to go.
My
to
wife
those
tells a
games.
story that I think her journalism class or one of her classes she was in. The professor said, "If you go to the game, I will give you extra credit." And they're like, "You have to stay for 5 minutes or whatever it was." And so she got there, took the picture, and then just pieced out, and she got her extra credit because that's how bad Texas Tech basketball was at the time. I mean, we had.
Shout out
Tubby Smith really turned it around. I mean, we had to go through the Billy Gillespie drunken phase. That was terrible. Then we got Tubby, and Tubby came and went, which I totally understand. And then we hired Chris Beard, who I hate to this day and will always hate till the end of time. But he really got this program back on track, and that's when we started to really see the turn. And now we have a guy like Grant, and I'm just elated at that we have this great success in our basketball program.
Great
Yeah.
success.
Yeah, we got a lot of positives to look forward
we're
to
not UT.
in Red
We're not
Raider
UT.
country. Yeah,
And
we're
UT,
not,
the last time they went to a
Yeah.
Final Four was 2003, and they think Sean Miller is going to be the savior and bring him back. I'm sorry, dude. You're just not a basketball school. No one gives a shit. So move on. Go watch a Austin Spurs game instead because they're going to have the talent. Don't get me wrong. They're going to have plenty of talent and they're all going to drive Lamborghinis, but they're just not going to be able to put anything together in the SEC if you have Arkansas and Kentucky and Florida and all these other great schools. Because I mean, you're at the bottom of the pack, and I don't see that getting any better.
I'm just a little surprised that we're still out here hiring Millers in Big 2025. Honestly, between Sean and Archie, there's any tread left on that tire?
He'll be gone in 4 years. He'll be
Maybe
gone
not.
in 4 years.
There's just no originality. I
Maybe
think
two.
if I'm a UT alum, I would have much rather them go out and take a chance hiring a guy like Royale Ivy
Why not?
than getting some guy that we've already seen doesn't get the job done.
right. Yeah, I mean that's very true. But hey, guys, we've got a lot of other coaches still in the tournament that have had a lot of success. Like one of the matchups I'm looking at moving forward is Ole Miss Michigan State. I think this could be a sneaky, really, really good
100%.
game.
Ole Miss might be the hot team. I mean, between them and BYU,
Now,
I don't want to.
I don't either.
Guys.
However, watching Iowa State play all year, I would lean on they had a shit game more than Ole Miss had a great game. Now, Ole Miss couldn't miss. That helped a lot. When you score 91 points in the 2 20-minute halves, that's really fucking impressive. But I also think Iowa State completely shit the bed. And I wonder that you got to, for these kids, and I'm going to call them kids because they're like 20 years old, they get high really quick, but they also get low very fast. So if Michigan State can come and weather the storm early, that could be a game changer.
Yeah, I mean they're more talented than Iowa State was. So I think just the coaching matchup alone, to your point, Rob, is that's what when you get to this point in the tournament, you kind of trim the fat. That's what you look for now. It's like names, programs that we're used to seeing and how they kind of clash against each other. And this isn't the first time these two guys have met in the tournament either.
Exactly. Yeah, I think, I would, I'm going to lean on the Izzo experience like we were saying on a previous podcast, but I really think that this is going to be one of the better games in the Sweet 16. I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for this one.
I'm excited by Florida, Maryland. Honestly, watching Florida
beatable.
yesterday against UConn, they looked more beatable than I would have expected. Now, that was the first Florida game I had ever sat down and watched in depth, but they turned the ball over a ton. They got slaughtered on the offensive glass for long stretches of time.
And
I
Walter
wasn't super
Clayton
impressed.
Jr. isn't as consistent of a scorer as he needs to be when he's playing some big teams. So I feel like if he gets off to a slow start like he did against UConn, that could be really, really trouble if you're an offense as high powered as Maryland.
Well, and I think a better defensive team isn't going to let him get those little fractions of space that he needed to hit those big shots yesterday. Like, that was just poor attention to detail. It's like, how do you let him hit that same little crab step jumper twice?
And also, I mean, UConn didn't really hit a shot in a stretch there. And, I mean, they got the last-second three-pointer, so they made the score look fine. But if they would have made one possession and scored on one of those possessions, that's a completely different finish of a game. And they definitely have a huge chink in the armor. And if they advance and they beat Maryland, they're going to have a tough time either with us or Arkansas. I do like Maryland a lot, and I think they now have some pretty high momentum after getting that last-minute shot. I think they're going to go back to the drawing board because honestly, Maryland didn't shoot the ball very well, and that's very unlike Maryland. So I would assume that they're going to try to get back to their shooting ways and hit those big shots. But, you know, Florida does not look as dominant as a number one. They really don't.
No,
I'm
no,
interested
I think,
to see. This is an offensive tournament, and that's pretty rare when we get to this point. There's not usually like a whole lot of offensive squads that we see. It's normally defense wins championships.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, so to see it come down to offense, I think it's going to be really interesting. Yeah, Florida, yeah, they haven't looked as Teflon as I thought they were, coming into the tournament. So who knows? Maryland could surprise them. But yeah, I think one of the matchups also we really need to key in on is obviously Houston-Purdue. I think we have, as a podcast, we have Houston winning the whole tournament. We were kind of talking light of Purdue on previous episodes. Honestly, I was to a certain degree, even though I wasn't shitting on him as much as you guys were. But at the same time, I think we all were kind of willing to just write them off, and I think they're rallying behind their first team, their All-American point guard Brendan Smith, and yeah, he's or Braden Smith, excuse me, and he's looking really, really solid. And dude, he can get his shots so quickly, so easily. Yeah.
I worry about them when they face a team with actual athleticism, length, and physicality. And Houston has all of those things, and they're well coached.
Yep.
And so I just think this is a bad matchup for Purdue in the way that I kind of thought McNeese might be, but this is McNeese on steroids.
Yeah,
right.
In terms of the caliber of athlete.
This is polished McNeese.
Yeah,
this is McNeese who doesn't have one foot out the door headed to North Carolina State.
But you know what? Where's Houston's viral manager? Okay, if they're just like McNeese, where's their viral?
aura?
Actually, excuse me, NC State now.
That's what I mean. Like they were halfway out the door.
Yeah,
right.
They're like, I know I have this cool Under Armour jumpsuit, but I have my Wolfpack stuff under it. So, yeah, dude. But I mean, Houston's a great team. They won the Big 12 and they won the tournament for a reason. And I think Kelvin Sampson is just a really good coach. And no matter what you put in front of him, his players respond. And it's gonna be a fun game. I just think Houston's probably gonna win. I don't know easily, but I think it's gonna be 5-6 points at the end of the day.
They just know their roles and play them so well. You have a guy like former Red Raider Malik Wilson who's going out there and just does all the dirty things, and does them well.
What kind of dirty things, James?
He'll get that steal. He'll force other people to commit fouls. He just and Houston has all kinds of those guys.
And he's been to us.
They're stars in their roles.
Sweet 16, and I mean this team's really good. And I think some of these matchups are kind of quiet, right? Like I think Houston doesn't really get a whole lot of pub right now. I think Auburn's kind of gone back a little bit. I think we've mostly been talking about the Dukes of the world. So I want to see Houston come out and kind of make a statement with Purdue. So I think that's what we're going to see in this next round is some of these teams coming out and making a statement because I feel like the media kind of glossed over some of these matchups.
I think Alabama BYU could be first to 90 wins the game. There's gonna be offense in that one.
Oh yeah, I think I was hearing that they were the first team to score 80 or more points on St. Mary's in over 107 games.
Crazy.
So I was like, that's a high-powered offense if you can break a streak like that.
Honestly, they got tested probably more than any high seed in the first round. Robert Morris came out there and caught fire a little bit. That was a close game.
It was a 9-point game. And we were laughing a lot about Robert Morris, and I think that they proved that, hey, do not underestimate a Robert Moore.
My only thing is, I wish a lot of players waited till the end of the tournament after we crowned the champion. When the season's over for everybody to announce their transfer portal status. It bothers me that we're in the middle of a game and people are talking about transfer portal and moving here, and when Jalen Rose drops that hilarious line of the two words that come after how much, like that's what this college game has turned into, and it has to an extent, but also just can we wait until after we're done?
Look at Scottie Pippen, or not Scottie Pippen Jr., his brother, I forget his name, but Scottie Pippen's son, who's at Michigan, is in the transfer portal, and Michigan is in the tournament.
Right.
And this isn't a situation like we had in football with a Penn State backup quarterback who had to transfer or else he would risk losing out on an opportunity to get a job. This is not that. So to your point, AJ, I don't understand why the portal had to open today.
It's stupid.
Right. At least wait until like the Final Four weekend when most teams aren't playing anymore, and there's at least some of the dust has settled for a lot of the organizations. But there's still like you were saying, there's some of these teams are still playing, and we're hearing about coaches being going to different teams, being fired and all this other stuff. And it's like, dude, why are we hearing about this right now when we should be focusing on basketball games being played?
100%.
Drake and Colorado State both lost their coach already.
Right. And the narrative should be how well they did during the tournament because Drake was a great team and they gave us a lot of trouble. I'm not going to lie. I was stressed for a lot of that game. They were hitting good shots, and I mean, that I can't pronounce his name. That Steinitz or whatever.
Yeah.
Sturts, yeah.
Dude's a hooper.
Dude, I mean, he won.
He's an NBA player.
Yes, he is an NBA player. He won Larry Bird Player of the Year, and I was like, dude, you're kind of looking like a Larry Bird meets LaMelo Ball kind of situation. I don't even know what the hell I'm looking at. He was cooking us.
Well, and that's just a great story because all those kids were D2 kids last year. And if you go back and you look at some of those teams that the Drake coach, Ben McCollum, I think is his name, that he coached at Northwest Missouri State, they're very Spurs-ish. It's very much good to great. Your head will spin watching some of those possessions. And so, and it's honestly, it's a little disappointing to have guys like that just peace out after one season to go probably get fired in 3 years at Iowa.
That's true. But hey, that's
the sport, man.
That's the life in college basketball now. Yeah, that's college basketball now.
And at least with Colorado State's coach, I get him going back to his alma mater in Minnesota.
Yeah, but I mean that's why this NIL thing is just so. I guess it's just cast a shadow on all of college sports because it's just going to come down to instead of recruiting on these guys' talent and the talent, hey, I got this great vibe when I was at this school. It's now going to be like, I got this great bag when I got the call. Like that's what it's going to come down to,
right?
And we're going to see some of like case in point, BYU. They're a great team. They're going to be even better next year because they got what's his name, AJ something another, Demansa, and they're going to probably bring back a handful of guys. I mean, it helps when. Never mind, I'm not going to go there. So, but just they have a lot of money. I'll just say that tax-free money.
But it's true. It's true. I mean, look at a bunch of religious schools have that, but as fans of the school, as Tech fans, as Tech alums, we have to be careful kind of disparaging NIL because
we're the biggest benefit.
when you bring that phrase up, very few schools come to your mind before Texas Tech, at least recently.
Oh yeah, yeah. We're wanting to drop that bag, so I'm completely okay with how the NIL is moving forward. I just think it just opens up the wild west, and whenever things are this unknown and this uncertain, it just takes a while for the dust to settle before we kind of understand what this landscape will look like and how teams are going to have to navigate NIL. Because right now it's just like it kind of feels a little uncertain, and players are going all over the place. But soon, I think organizations are going to learn how to leverage that even better.
I think there's an extent of to quote James Franco, Pandora doesn't go back in the box; she only comes out.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of unknown, and with the way football kind of drives the bus, I can see a lot of this stuff winding up in court.
Well, I mean,
not
look,
wrong.
I mean, we can hit pause on basketball for a second. You look like a guy like Micah Hudson, who went to Tech as a freshman, got a huge bag as a freshman, hardly played, transferred to A&M, gets a bag at A&M, and now he's back in the portal, and he never played a single snap for A&M. Like, it's
Never even
didn't even put pads on. Didn't even get to fucking spring practice. Never even got to the spring game. So it's just,
is that Millie or Diego?
I don't know, but it's just, I mean,
It's
just
Millie,
a wild,
it's
just a wild thing, like to see. I mean, Micah Hudson didn't even play for A&M, and he's already back in the transfer portal. It's insane, but this is what we have to live with, and we also have to live with conferences being cross country now too. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I could do hours on this topic because I was a huge realignment junkie before it just jumped the shark and got a little tiresome.
So going back to the bracket though, guys, are we still pretty confident in our Final Four?
Yeah, I'm still feeling really confident. I mean, when we're looking at everyone kind of coming together, Auburn, Texas Tech, Houston, Duke, I'm feeling pretty strong about that. Obviously, us picking Red Raiders over Florida is the pick that I think we're attaching a little bit of fandom to, but at the same time we can justify it. And I think that that's probably our biggest question mark, but everyone else looks like they're ready to steamroll ahead.
Duke looks so good, man.
It's
yeah. So I mean, I think we're looking pretty solid.
That's the fun thing about the tournament. You wait 5 days, anything can happen.
Oh yeah, but as long as we're beating in the building, that's
the only
what
thing
matters.
that matters.
And we are smoking Mike and Rudy J. They can't hang with our stuff. We have ball knowledge. They don't. It's okay. We actually watch games.
This is what happens when you watch.
I have tremendous anxiety about everything. I don't have tremendous anxiety about in the building catching
This
us.
is what happens when you actually watch ball and you don't just talk about the Cowboys every day. So I get it. When in doubt, talk about the Cowboys. But, you should probably turn on a game or two here and there. I mean, you want to talk about your UT fandom, but, I mean, you don't know shit about UT either. So, just one of those things where stop talking about the Cowboys, start talking about college basketball.
Well, when we say
if
Cowboys,
TCU was
they
in
think
the
of
tournament,
Dallas.
Taylor might be able. Yeah.
And we're talking about McNeese when we say Cowboys.
Exactly. Or Oklahoma State. No.
Yeah.
But if TCU was in the tournament, Taylor might be bothered to not be in second to last place. But
yeah. But regardless, we are completely waxing them. I don't see why that shouldn't continue. Do we have any more tournament stuff? Do y'all have any tournament stuff you want to get off your chest before we dive into a little bit of Spurs to end the episode?
Just road to San Antonio, man. I'm excited. I'm excited for that city.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff happening Final Four weekend.
I'm planning on heading down there that weekend, by the way.
I want to as well. We should do some content.
In the mix. Your boys coming to San Antonio, and we're going to eat tacos and breakfast tacos, and we're going to get empanadas, and we might go to Panderia. downtown, dude, I'm here for it. I'm excited. The projection right now is the San Antonio economy is supposed to get like $400 million. I think it's going to be closer to $500 million.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Depends on who gets in.
If it's
Depends
Tech
on
in
who's
Houston,
there.
dude, $1 billion easily, just from alcohol
Yes.
sales from Texas Tech.
Right. Well, just two Texas
Yeah.
schools there in a
Two big
yeah,
Texas schools there.
Yes,
We're bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that we're all looking good for the Final Four in San Antonio. That's going to be really fun stuff, and I think we're all going to try to be a
power.
part of it. But yeah, let's move right along to some Spurs basketball,
Got some
guys. Yeah, like over the last 7 games, we're 5-2. We are. I mean, I know we've been playing teams like the 76ers and the Pelicans and the busted trying to tank Raptors, but at the same time, we're not looking half bad. You know, Steph Castle's obviously doing his thing over the 7-game stretch, about 19, 5 and 4 on about the same efficiency. You know, Devin Vassell's stepping up. I mean, last night he had a huge game, and we need to see more games like that. But, you know, over the last few games, he's putting up about 19, 5 and 5 on 40% from beyond the arc. And, you know, this is what you want to see when there's really not a lot to play for. You want to see these kind of silver linings.
We didn't even mention the best game a Spurs had this past month, and that's Mamu. Mamu went off. I texted you guys at halftime. I'm like, guys, this dude is on fire right now. And single-handedly beat the Knicks with Flavor Flav in the building. And who knew that they were such good friends too? Like, do y'all know that story?
Yeah, close personal friend.
They had the same financial advisor, and I guess they had a meeting back to back or something. And now Mamu and him are like homeboys. And so Flavor Flav was like, "I'll go to a game," and he went to a game. And I wonder if Mamu was like, "Hey, Mitch, heads up, Flavor Flav's here to see me. Can I get some minutes?" And Mitch was like, "All right, man, whatever you say." And so Mamu gets in there, and he's just goes off. I mean, what a great game. And that's kind of game that you want to see Mamu have, especially, you know, being on a 1-year contract. So he's trying to get that next year too. I know Wemby likes him. I would love for him to stay, but, you know, shout out to him. He at least got one.
Well, we talked about it in podcast past is, you know, give us a reason to keep you around. You know, that's what this season shifted to once Wemby and De'Aaron Fox went out. Give us a reason to keep you around. And you see guys like Mamu and Blake Wesley, you know, into the bench guys stepping up and just being like, hey, if it's not here, it's going to be somewhere. I'm an NBA player.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, it's if you're not going to fit here, you're playing for your life elsewhere to try to, you know, extend your life 3, 4, 5 years in the NBA. Yeah, I would love to see both Blake Wesley and Mamu stay on the roster. Obviously, we need to bring in other guys that are probably going to take priority over them. But at the same time, yeah, I would love to see them fill out the end of the bench because we need those kind of guys.
Yeah,
but we're playing really well. What the hell, guys?
Maybe we just need to ignore the Spurs more.
I guess that's what it is. We don't talk about the Spurs on Baseline Bums podcast. Good call. But I mean, we're 3 games away from the play-in. Like, it's not out of the question for us to make a push here. Now, granted, I don't think we beat the Pistons tonight, but I do think that there are some winnable games here coming up. And I mean, anything can happen. This team all of a sudden starts to click, and I guess that's when you start leaning on each other instead of your superstars. And you're seeing
it just got a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna get hard.
Schedule wise.
I mean, you can still shock a lot of people. Like, it's not. Anything can happen, so we'll see what happens. And I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just happy that they're making some kind of push and they're keeping us engaged in some kind of way, and they didn't just chalk up the season like the Raptors do.
Yeah, the Raptors were literally just saying, "Hey, we're tanking." Last night. They
played so bad. That was tough to watch.
It was. I mean, even on a game where like Scotty Barnes was playing and dropped like a 23 piece or something like that, like didn't play that bad. It just overall just was. They clearly were just saying, "Hey, we're trying to sink right now.
We're trying to get Cooper flag."
Right. they're trying to flag in here. But yeah, it's just nice seeing a little bit of life out of San Antonio to not just flail at
Now,
the end of the season.
let me ask you guys.
They're +9
Yeah.
from last year. in the
30
win
game
column?
30 games win season. I'll take that. That's a huge increase, and I'm curious to see what we do with Chris Paul and what we do with Harrison Barnes. I think Harrison Barnes still has another year, so he's going to stay. But Chris Paul, I don't know if he wants to take a minimal role as a backup point guard with the Spurs, or if he still wants to be a starter. Either way, I think showing that having veterans on the team is has huge upside. And as much as we want to save draft picks and stuff, I totally understand draft picks are the hotness and all this young talent coming out, but veterans still win you games. And that's what you can lean on in this league.
Yeah, I think
that's
I
very
saw
true.
someone say it earlier. Harrison Barnes should, if you're the Spurs, you should try to get him to finish his career here.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Chris Paul probably will finish his career here. I don't think he's back next year anywhere in the league, but that kind of, you see it in Detroit too. That kind of maturity does wonders.
Yeah, and Cam's new best
Yeah.
friend Bismack Biyombo. So I'm excited if we can try to keep him too, because I like we talked about in a previous podcast, really curious to see what we would have done with him as a backup center, because he's obviously much more consistent. He looked don't give me that, James, fuck off. So I saw that.
No,
butt face. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I agree to an extent, but at the end of the day, he is Bismack Biyombo. I do like him, but we need to be looking elsewhere, because I think he was a Band-Aid just kind of fixing a problem we had.
how would y'all feel about bringing back Trey Jones?
I mean, I
still be a
wouldn't hate
backup.
it, but I also
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Chris Paul would have to be completely out of the picture, which, I mean, if that's the case, then I would be more okay with it.
Well, yeah, because honestly, I think the way Trey is playing in Chicago, I don't think you'll have the money to sign Chris Paul and Trey Jones to just dedicate to that point guard spot, because you're also probably going to be maxing De'Aaron Fox sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So you bring up money. This year, I think is when Sohan's able to sign an extension. Do you give him that offer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give him $22 million or $25 million, whatever the market price is, and be happy that he'll sign it.
Yeah, I think that the way he's getting better, he still has, he's presenting a lot of offensive and defensive value. I clearly see, him progressing into being one of our best players, and most nights he can be, even though he's inconsistent. I just think, he's a guy. I don't know what the exact number is, if it's north of 20, if it's 25. But I think we give him something that's fairly competitive for sure.
You're paying Keldon $20 million a year and Devin Vassell $26 million a year. He fits somewhere in that middle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but I think we also gave Keldon that contract when we were at a different place within our franchise. I think that was more of a we needed to pay him.
Was an $80 million extension? I think it was like
4 years, $80 million.
a few years ago. So it's dude, it's just fun to watch the Spurs finally be competitive. I mean, I guess more competitive when we're playing shittier teams, but the end of the season, we'll see how this all kind of unravels. And like we've been saying, this is a big off season. So regardless, win, lose, or draw, big off season.
If they can somehow win these next 2 games, they will end the most embarrassing stat in Spurs history, and they will finally get their first 5-game win streak of the decade.
That's crazy.
Just
It's not crazy. And then if we win those 2 games and Mavs slip up or Phoenix slips up, I mean, I would love to see us in the playing game, just for us to get just our toes wet for a second, even if we get blown out by somebody, just a little tutus. And once we get that, I mean, it kind of catapult us for the next season. But obviously, we want that draft stock too.
the Mavs do nothing but slip up. So that'll take care of itself.
Apparently, AD's back in the lineup.
Yeah, I could see them. I mean, even if he is, I still feel like that there's a curse on that franchise right now. They need to do something to uplift
Move to
that,
Vegas.
and even AD playing. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's what needs to
Sacrifice
happen.
Jason Kidd.
Oh
Bump
my
me.
goodness. But yeah, guys, that's feeling like a pretty good episode. If y'all have some more Spurs stuff you need to get off your chest. Guys, yeah, that's feeling like a really good episode. If you're still here, if you're still listening to the Baseline Bums podcast brought to you by Love You Hard TV, we really, really appreciate you. We absolutely adore all of our listeners. If you're liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Apple Podcasts, wherever we are, we want you there with us because this would not be the same without you. we can dunk, but let's make it quick. We're already at an hour.
No, I get you.
Seth Greenberg, I'm going to dunk on you because you suck.
Dan Hurley, shut the fuck up.
I need to hear more about Dan Hurley real quick.
Okay, but you can't lose the game and then be telling the other team in the tunnel that's about to take the floor, good luck, I hope they don't fuck you like they did us. Like, you can't you won 2 national championships in a row. You can't do that.
I thought it was so funny that he was acting like this is like a fucking 7th grade like tournament game on a weekend and they have the same refs. They're like, I hope those same refs don't screw you. It's like, bro, they have different refs coming in for different games. This isn't a fucking CYO tournament, bro. Like,
No, I just saw that and Cup, he's been on
He
one
really
this whole
has.
season, so that's why I just say Dan Hurley,
He
shut
has.
the fuck up.
oh my gosh. Yeah, and I'm going to do a quick dunk on everyone that thought that was a fucking travel. Dude, like everyone that thinks that's a travel consistently doesn't watch basketball. It's getting kind of annoying seeing stuff on Twitter,
Group
like
chats.
seeing all the I'm not even really talking about the group chat specifically. I'm mainly talking about like shit I've seen posted on TikTok. It's almost like the anti-basketball, anti-NBA crowd at this point is just wanting to hate
Every
on some
time.
traveling. So get fucked, dunk on yourself. But guys, okay. Now this is a good way to end the episode. After some
I feel
good,
so much
healthy
better.
dunking. Yeah, honestly, we'll end this episode the same way we end all episodes, and that's with a go.
Spurs.
Spurs.
A go.
A go.
Wreck 'em Tech.